Are we ready, Z? Yes, ma'am. I'd like to call the RDC meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Alan, would you start us off?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. AJ, are you calling the roll? Who's calling the roll?
It's me.
Okay.
Greg Lack.
Here.
Colin Zilli. Alan Eckdahl.
Here.
Ralph Munn. Mayor Lynch.
Here.
Dr. Finley.
Okay. We have the approval of the minutes from December 21st, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion, any changes? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on, we have the payment of claims.
Do we need to make a
I think there's an
Motion with
amendment on
the-
there too.
motion with the addition of the attorney fees for 1120?
Okay. Did you see that, Ellen?
Yeah, very important addition.
You're welcome.
Well, since he was late.
He was not.
Okay. You have a motion by Greg. Did you motion?
Yeah, motion.
Oh, okay. Second.
We have a motion by Greg, seconded by Alan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have staff reports.
Yes, we do. Mayor, first, we do have to elect officers for 2022. I know we're expecting one more member, so I don't know if you want to hold off on that, or if we could start right now, maybe.
Well, there's that member.
Here he
so-
is now.
So we do have the election of officers for 2022.
Just in time.
With the motion for president? Is that a regular motion?
I believe that's included.
Okay.
We're having the election of officers.
Anyone made a motion yet?
No.
I'll make a motion that Greg Lack be the secretary.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations for secretary? If not, nominations will be closed for secretary. All in favor signify by saying aye for Greg Black for secretary.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. There you go, Greg.
Make a motion for Colin to be vice president?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for Colin to be the vice president. Are there any other nominations for vice president? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye for Colin for vice president.
Aye. And I will make a motion to nominate the mayor as president. Do we have to do that, or is she by statute the president?
You know, it's a feel-good motion. Let's go with it.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Colin, seconded by Greg for president. Sue, are there any other nominations for president? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, thank you, everyone. Now we have staff reports.
Yeah, a little different arrangement this month as we get our feet settled with Lynn retiring earlier this month. So, in the interim, I believe I'll be serving as recording secretary of the Redevelopment Commission until we can identify someone to serve in that capacity. So as a staff report, a couple things I'd like to bring to the attention of the commission. We continue to work on the Marquette Greenway Trail project, the MPS segment. Advertisement for the construction project is set for later this month, and it is the intention to open those bids at the March 24th Redevelopment Commission meeting. Later today, we'll be opening bids for tree removal related to that project. Central Avenue, the demo of the former Gilbert gas station. We're working with Americo to complete the bid specifications. It's the intention to get those soon out on the street with advertisements on the 31st of January and I believe February 7th. We'll be opening those bids at the Redevelopment Commission meeting on February 24th. The Willow Creek Road, Chrisman Road Bypass project is currently out to bid. Bid opening at the Indiana Department of Transportation is scheduled for February 9th. Award will soon follow. So I would expect that project is underway here in spring of 2022. Founders Square staff completed a walkthrough on January 14th. DLZ, our construction inspector, is working on documents for substantial completion. There are some punch list items that do remain and some restoration work that's going to need to occur this spring. The Central Avenue West project has been pushed to fiscal year 2023. There, as you are aware, there were a couple properties that needed to be acquired as part of that project. One of the landowners was not willing to move forward, so we need to move forward in condemnation proceedings. That will be pushed back a couple months and likely into the third quarter of 2022. And talking with folks at Structure Point earlier today, it looks they're confident that it's either going to be bid in July or August of this year. The City Hall remodel project, the Phase 2 work is well underway, and as I always say, it's always hard to offer a report because it's always the work's moving forward, and it's well, like I said, it's well on its way. So if you get a chance to stop by, please by all means do so. Really, that concludes my report today, unless you have any other questions.
I only had one question, and it doesn't have to do with that, but I think I did have a question with the Robbins and Airport Road not getting striped yet. What is the status of that?
Sandy, did you want to maybe bring us up to speed on where we stand with the request that we've made for striping?
As I'm sure you're aware, we've asked multiple companies to stripe the road, and they have never gotten back with us. The one company that did get back with us, they provided us with a quote to do the work, which was 3 times more than what we pay normally. And so we decided to hold off on that and then continue to ask for quotes from other people, and never got anything. Obviously, this isn't the best weather to be doing any road striping, so we anticipate doing some asphalt work on Airport Road south of that section next year, and when we have that striped, we'll have the entire thing striped. So it's our intention to get that done quickly so that we can get the whole thing striped and finished up.
And it's going to have the turning lanes again, right? We're adding those back in?
Yes. I believe that the Traffic Commission approved a proposed plan that included turn lanes. It's still just going to be the 2-way stop, rather than stopping to Airport, but the turn lanes will go back in.
Perfect.
Good.
Thanks,
I
Sandy.
know that's been a challenge, but every time I go through there, I see that it's not striped, and so I'm hoping it doesn't cause a problem, that's all. So I just keep asking. Maybe somebody will step up. Okay. Is there any other questions the commission has for AJ? If not, we'll move on to new business, and that's to open the quotes on Central West tree and vegetation removal.
We received 2 quotes. The first one is from Edmonds Tree Service of Portage, Indiana. And they provided a quote in the total amount of $92,500. Our second quote is from Homer Tree Service. They're out of Lockport, Illinois. Their quote is for $34,000 even. Due to the nature of the work and the schedule, I would like to make a recommendation that the board award this, obviously contingent upon Mr. Witten's review, to our lowest quoter, which is Homer Tree Service for $34,000. This is for the Central Avenue West project. the work that's going to be done at the bridge and connecting the road to the bridge. The purpose for the rush is the Indiana bats. So we have to get the trees down before April 1st, which is when the bats come out of hibernation, and have to have everything taken care of prior to that date.
Well, I will make a motion to award the quote to, what was it, Homer?
Homer Tree Service contingent upon legal review.
Second.
We have a motion by Collins, seconded by Allen, to approve the tree removal quote to Homer. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Sandy. Okay, we have opening of the bids for the trail corridor clearing.
Okay, our first bid is from Homer Tree Service. Their bid is in the amount of $43,000 even. Our next bid is from Construction. They are out of Gary, Indiana. And their bid is for $115,000, $115,700. And again, I would recommend that the commission award this project due to our time constraints in the schedule with the bats. These are bids, so if they could be awarded contingent upon Attorney Whitten's review.
I will make a motion to award to Homer Tree Service contingent upon legal review.
Second.
We have a motion by Collins, seconded by Allen. Can I ask a question? Why would that be such a huge difference?
I think it's just the nature of the companies.
Because in both of those cases, those are huge differences, so.
They are.
When I look at them, I kind of look to see that we're talking apples to apples. Sometimes they're just weird.
Right.
You know, it's one of the things I peek at.
And I wonder if the difference, I mean, between Gary Up and Homer Tree Services, one's a construction company, one's
Want to
a
do
tree
service.
service. They probably have the equipment, don't have to rent the equipment.
Exactly, and can do it a lot quicker, you know,
Right.
time frame, paying employees and things like that. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, there you go. We have the Portage Library Park. AJ?
Mayor, if I could, I believe before we're in a position to act on item number 8.4, I think we need to revisit the proposed 2022 budget under new business item 1.
Oh, I don't have that in my thing, so.
Yeah, I believe a revised agenda was sent.
Okay, this is the agenda that I was given, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
So in the board packets, you've received proposed working budgets for 2022 for both the general fund number 273, and for those commissioners who've been around, it's the old Fund 406 general fund, and a proposed budget for allocation area fund number 471, which is formerly the Fund 407 allocation area tax increment fund. So starting with the general fund, if we could, you'll note at the top that there was a carryover balance from 2021 in the amount of just over 1.4 million. We talk ourselves through revenues that would be coming into the general fund in 2022. And it looks like we would be at revenues of about 1.75 million with a combination of carryover and revenue. And then adding to that as you continue other revenues that would be coming into the commission in 2022, including bank interest, tax abatement fees, utility reimbursements that are identified contractually in the agreements that we have with NERC, the Northwest Indiana Forum, and CEC controls, and then and really miscellaneous is at zero. So total revenues projected, including the carryover balance from the previous year, is just above $2 million. I have not included anything in the revenue lines for land sales. While the commission is actively pursuing those land sales, I would prefer that we not anticipate and drop that anticipated sale to the revenue line. I would prefer that we keep that at zero, and if we are successful in a land sale, that it would be then incorporated into the budget of this account. As we walk through expenses, some of these lines we've been able to put money into, where in previous years we were not, due to the financial straits of the commission. But as we walk through here, there's a line, there's a budget line for equipment within the general fund, event sponsorship, and there's an example list of what that those sponsorships would be used for. Memberships and promotional, both to our membership to the Northwest Indiana Forum and other marketing and promotion opportunities. We still have 2 grants that are outstanding that are continuing to be worked on. One at Garrison Center, that's a grant through the Lake Michigan Coastal Program, and then the regional trails counters. In the professional services, reviewing what is considered an eligible expense in the fund. Some of these numbers are less than in previous years. However, you'll see that some of that is now included in Fund 471. Property management. Again, with the financial condition of the commission, monies were able to be budgeted for lawn care, landscaping, and snow removal. Again, there's a list of sample projects within that in the notes section, as well as repair, maintenance, and demo of different properties in the city. And then as you turn the page, we do not expect any need for expenses currently at the Redevelopment Commission. Travel zeroed out. The utilities that you see listed there on the second page are utilities that the Redevelopment Commission has paid for at places like Portage Lakefront, Founders Square, locations like that. And then payroll, the Redevelopment Commission reimburses certain salaries here in the city. Moving on to the NERC building expenses. We have a pretty good track record in history and understanding of 6100 Southport. So included in that are the facility management services with Holiday Properties, a number of then services provided to the building, including cleaning and alarm and fire, internet. And then monies for lawn care, snow removal, repair and maintenance. I've kept those numbers similar to in the past. In talking with Holiday Properties, they do have a new person that's taken on that role, that leadership role at this property. So early indications are that there's a little bit more of an engagement, which I think is a good thing to report. And then you'll also notice a new line here is a capital reserve fund. we should expect, as the building owner in out years, that there may be some larger capital needs for that building. And the idea here is to then set aside a capital reserve account so that in those out years, possibly by behaving this way, instead of issuing a revenue bond to do some of the work, we could just cash flow it. And so that would be part of the proposal for this year.
Excuse me, would
Yes,
that
sir.
be a carry forward if we don't spend that much?
That would be my intention, so that capital reserve fund, you would see that accumulating, and that if we felt that we could roll some of it off, we could make that decision. But I really think that, especially when we consider some of the larger systems that are out at that building, that an account that is set aside for a roof repair or a significant roof or a HVAC system or something like that. But I would suggest to the commission to start thinking in those terms, so that you're able to make those repairs if those larger capital expenses are presented to the commission for to be dealt with. Also then included are utilities that are paid for the building. However, as you know, up in the revenue line, we do recover quite a bit of those utility costs as per the leases that we have. Insurance, you know, that's the number from 2021. Again, it's always something that could fluctuate a little bit. And then toward the bottom, you'll see another capital reserve fund of $500,000. And again, to Commissioner Lack's question, it would be my hope that that number is always at least held at that amount. It could roll over a little bit more. And why I suggest this reserve account is as you go back through, specifically back to page 1 of this budget, when you begin to consider that the Redevelopment Commission plays a part in funding salaries of certain employees in the city. It needs to take care of operations. It needs to do a number of things. The Commission's budget here has been relied on quite heavily, and especially when we add to it, you know, the expectations of this board as it relates to lawn care, landscaping, repairs, maintenance. The better that reserve account, I think the greater the longevity the commission can have in terms of being that sort of support system to different aspects of the city's operation. Again, because those are salaries and things like that, it's really difficult to put them in the allocation area fund budget, especially as it relates to repair and maintenance, which can become quite an expensive sort of proposition. At that point, I would ask, are there any questions about the General Fund 273? If there's not, I'll move on and then present the proposed working budget for the allocation area fund 471. You'll see that the carryover balance here is just over 6.3 million. Estimated collections in 2022 are approximately 7.95 million. Reimbursements, again, that would come back to us as reimbursements from federal aid projects. You'll see at 613, and the notes are provided to the commission on the right. The city's AARP plan dollars related to the Founders Square and Plaza would be being returned to the Redevelopment Commission at $800,000, and then bank interest on monies that we have in the bank. So total revenues, including revenue coming in 22 and carryover balances, $685,345, so $15,685,000. As we then make our way through expenses, the first category, of course, is debt service, what we owe people. Our total debt service obligation in 2022 is approximately $4.345 million. The first payment was paid this last month and approved on the claims that was approved a little earlier in the agenda. This proposed budget includes equipment for fire, police, and park in the department. In review of the guidance provided to the Redevelopment Commission can support or purchase equipment using allocation area dollars for items that benefit the area. And I think I think the commission would agree that fire, police, and park and the department itself do provide benefits to serve the TIF, to serve the allocation area. A glaring maybe absence there is the street department, but as I make my way through the agenda toward the at the end, you'll see that the street department bond still holds a carryover balance of $173,000, so that I believe that they are using the remaining balance to possibly match a grant application for equipment. So the street department is well covered by the Redevelopment Commission or its debt. Grants that go out, our annual award to Portage Township Schools and the tech grant of $100,000. Of course, that plan needs to be submitted to the RDC. Continuing funding of Portage Economic Development Corporation at $40,000. As you'll recall, last year when we met with HWC, our engineering consultant, we walked through an exercise to talk about priorities and next projects of the Redevelopment Commission. Downtown, as you will recall, was 1A in terms of focus for investment by the Redevelopment Commission. And to assist in moving that forward, a proposal to reestablish the Portage Downtown Development Corporation. It's a $40,000 set aside. There's a lot of work that would need to be done to get that organization reestablished, but this would serve as the seed money to do so. And then last would be a proposed grant to Portage Township YMCA for the pool project, taking a similar approach that the Portage City Council did per their ARPA plan, to basically set aside cash as a grant to the commission or to the YMCA. Matching funds, we have an outstanding grant with Lake Michigan Coastal. You'll notice I've submitted it, or I've placed it in the unfunded line. That's a grant that we had a year ago. And I'm not quite sure that we're going to be able to proceed with that grant due to some reasons that were beyond at least my control. And I know that we've had a desire to move forward quickly. We're going to open up RFPs for Development Parcel C. So I'm not sure ultimately we're going to be able to take advantage of that grant. And it's gonna be a conversation that I have with the grant administrator with Lake Michigan Coastal. The second project there is the trail, the Marquette Greenway Trail from Deer Trail Park to the town of Burns Harbor. This is the city's local match or local commitment to the $2.5 million grant we received from the state of Indiana through Next Level Trails. Our total commitment was $700,000, and we've paid approximately $136,400 so far, and I believe we just approved the next piece of the work there for $42,000 with Homer for tree clearing. So that project will be tracked out of that account there. You know, there's the historic commitment of this commission on the Lakefront Park beach erosion study. That was a joint effort with National Park and a lot of others. Again, I have that listed in the unfunded column, but it's a commitment that this commission made a number of years ago, and I haven't heard that we want to move past that commitment, so I keep it in here to keep in mind. The Marquette Greenway Trail, as you know, Northwest Indiana was successful in receiving both federal and state grants, Ready and Raise, and included in those grants were the Marquette Greenway Trail, finishing its construction from the city of Chicago to Southwest Michigan. The $838,820 is the amount that was identified as the local share of the city of Portage. You will note that I've kept it in the unfunded column at this point because I don't know how that is going to be requested of the Redevelopment Commission. It would be my expectation that we would see a request for funds for design first, construction second, and in all likelihood construction second, being done in phases. As you recall, I believe it's 3 or 4 projects that are within the city of Portage, and I don't know if the construction of those are all going to come down at the same time. Another project in matching funds, and this is kind of a continuation of what this commission did last year. Last year we funded at $250,000 the reconstruction of Hamstrum Road. This year, that project that's in the allocation area that I'm proposing, the Redevelopment Commission would play a part in its work or construction is Airport Road. One of the projects we're identifying in the Community Crossings Matching Grant for 2022 is Airport Road between US 6 and north to just south of Robbins. That was a project that Sandy talked about earlier when we were talking about striping. In professional services, again, looking at the guidance that's provided, I think that we can do a better job of tracking how we're using city staff time and where we're paying for the services we receive. You know, in the case of, like instance, Attorney Whitten, you know, he does work on behalf of the commission. That is more operational, but many times Attorney Whitten is doing work that is very directly related to a project in the allocation area.
I serve everybody.
There are similar to our work with Carl Sender, who's here today, our engineers, even our staff, as I mentioned earlier. So working with Clerk Treasurer Rivas, we've identified some opportunities here that will maybe free up a bit more money in our general fund of the Redevelopment Commission. So we're working closely with one another to sort through payroll so that our staff they're going to have to keep track of our hours a little better. The guidance is clear. If you're going to do this, keep track of stuff. Right. And we're working very closely with Nina, her staff, and staff that I have in the department that would do this work, and we think we're really close to having that sorted. And that will be something that we'll work on in the weeks to come and have ready so that when we start the Willow Creek Chrisman Bypass Project or Central Avenue West, it'll be we'll be tracking those funds here in Fund 471. As we turn the page, Central Avenue West, you see what's going on there with engineering, design, construction engineering. The Willow Creek Chrisman Bypass, a project that we'll be starting here very shortly. Founders Square and Plaza landscaping, as you will recall, this commission's practice, and really the practice of the city generally speaking, is we tend to pull the landscape aspects minus restoration out of general contractors' work and place them with landscapers, and will administrate as a separate contract. Just too much past experience. The landscape aspect of that project was pulled out and would be completed this spring in advance of the ribbon cutting. And then I'm going to start talking about several projects in downtown. Again, this is staff listening to what the commission identified as priority A1A when we met late last year with our consultants. The first is pedestrian access and connectivity in downtown Portage. These are continuing to think through how do we build out downtown for the pedestrian, for circulation, wayfinding, a lot of different things. So there's some design work in there as well as construction. I would expect that in the years to come that this would be a funded sort of project for many years. And I would note here, this is, I think, the first time you'll see that in the notes section that the city of Portage in their council and their ARPA plan did dedicate $50,000 toward these sort of amenities in our downtown. So that would be $300,000 plus an additional $50,000. So we think that based on what that can get done and really honestly capacity of staff, that seems to be about the level of projects that we could move forward with this year. The downtown Portage master plan update, that was something that we all talked about, but I know last week when we all met, when we were talking about the master plan for the former Little League site, we're struggling there a little bit. You know, we have so many plans in place, and I put it in the unfunded column. And it's something I want to revisit. I can't right now recommend that right now because I can't get my head around the value of it at this point. I think we know what we need to do in so many cases, and we just need to pull that trigger first. But again, I would entertain any discussion on that. Maybe you see it differently than I. City Hall parking lot and landscaping. As Gary Up concludes the interior work, we know we have an exterior project to complete at City Hall. Whether it's the parking lot paving, sorting out the access to the kiosk for utility bills, or the landscaping, generally speaking. While we've been over there during construction, I've seen people come to the kiosk, even when it's clear that the building's closed. There's no way it could possibly be open, but people are still using that kiosk. People are still coming to the door. So there seems to be, and then just watching what happens here, people love to walk up, they love to pay their bills. That's what that project includes. The City Hall remodel, that includes sort of where we are with what's left on the architectural service contract, the other design service contracts that we have, and then what's left is the city or the Redevelopment Commission share of their contribution toward that project. The next is the downtown, again, a generic name, but I'm just calling it the Downtown Portage Community Recreation, and this is the former Portage Little League complex. You know, we're in the planning process, and I appreciate all of you taking the time to participate in those interviews last week. Design services, construction for the first phase. And you'll note here again that the City Council in their ARPA plan did commit $500,000 toward that project. Design for services for a subsequent phase 2, construction of phase 2 are to be determined, and those things will all be really decided when the master plan is presented to this commission in March. I guess to rewind here a little bit, much like we talked about last week, and what's later on today's agenda, if the commission is going to move forward with, hey, let's activate this space for baseball this year, that some work needs to be done. So that's what I'm considering as phase 1 sort of work. And so that's an explanation there. The Marquette Greenway Trail from US 20 to Old Porter Road, I have that as all TBD. I don't have anything more to report on that at this time. And the same for the Transit Development District projects. You know, that we've started conversations with the RDA, and then you know, those conversations are kind of start, stop. Again, I just a few days ago I received word that they want to reconvene with the department, so we'll be doing that. But right now I've left it in a to be determined column because I don't have much to report to the commission or suggest to the commission. The next project is a proposed kayak launch and access at Portage Lakefront and Riverwalk. We've been working very closely with folks at the National Park Service and the Northwest Indiana Paddlers Association, so that there's a proposed budget in there in addition to the launch, and it would include other pathways and beginning to sort out some of the access that has been destroyed by the damage that occurred during the last several years with high water levels on Lake Michigan. And for me specifically, it's that area where the jetty, the staircase that comes down from the pavilion, and the asphalt walkway that makes its way out to the jetty and the beach area. There's some access work that needs to be sorted there. The Portage Library project, again, that's the design contract is later on in the agenda. Design services, construction, and then as noted in other places, the city council in their ARPA plan did commit $300,000 to the construction of that project. Another project, the Open Air Pavilion, of $25,000 for design services. I don't think it would be news to any of you that we've in small groups or individually expressed our individual concerns that open air could be more, that it's not enough, that it's not being used, and everybody has ideas. So the thought would be to re-engage the architect who did that work initially, talk about programming, and talk about where the city wants to go so that the open air pavilion could be more than a facility that's used a handful of times a year. As you all know, the city's committed some pretty significant resources to that project, and I think we believe it can be greater and better serve the residents of Portage and visitors to our community. Hannah's Hope Playground, there's that old adage that you can't grow grass on a busy playground, but a real busy playground also can damage a synthetic surface. And while our department, Parks Department, has done an admirable job trying to repair that, it's been a challenge. The surface is 5 years old, or just over 5 years old, and it's in desperate need of repair or replacement, so there's budget in there for that. The splash pad surface project, again, it's past its life. It needs a new surface, so there's included $35,000 for resurface. And then the Founders Square Plaza project, it's $700,000. That's the commitment the city, the Redevelopment Commission made to that project. That's close to the contracted amount, and above you saw that reimbursement that was coming from the city council with their ARPA plan. All of that said, with those expenditures, we would end December of 2022 with a balance of about $4.6 million, less debt service payment in January 2023. We'd be left with an operating balance in January of 2023 at about $2.5 million. And I would want to highlight here a note. This used to be this commission's past practice, and you're finally in a position to think in these terms. I would strongly suggest, as the director here, that you do consider always carrying a minimum balance in your redevelopment commission as you go from year to year. I just think it's a good practice. And again, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, there still remains a balance in the street department bond, and my understanding is that that balance is being used to serve as a local match to a grant that the street department is pursuing. With that, I apologize for being long-winded. There's a lot to go through, and then I'll ask if there's any questions regarding the 2022 proposed budget for allocation area fund 471.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say, thank you for putting this together. Thank you to everybody that was involved in this. I think this is one of the best budgets we've seen for the RDC. And it's impressive that we're leaving ourselves with a cushion at the end and getting a lot accomplished. So that says a lot about getting our property sold and making some money for the RDC, and being able to reinvest that back into the allocation area.
AJ, refresh my memory. I'm just curious. The allocation of equipment for fire, police, and
Yeah.
how does that compare to the budget last year?
Zero.
Okay, this is new money.
Yeah, If I think, Attorney Whitten, if I went far enough back, we may find that there might be some past years where the Redevelopment Commission had the ability to do that and go out and help a few departments with equipment. You know, Commissioner Lack and Mayor have probably could recall some of those times. But in the last couple of years, just based on where the commission's budget was, it was zero. So this would be the first year that those funds are placed back in the budget for the use of those departments.
Great.
So I know with parks, I can see the connection. What would we be thinking would fall under the police and fire category? Just curious.
The allocation area extends from Lake of Michigan to south of Route 6. The allocation area includes our main thoroughfares, our main commercial and retail districts, our industrial area, as portions of the national park, Ameriplex. So police and fire obviously provide public services to those areas. You know, whether it's a vehicle, an apparatus, or more simply the place where they live to go then provide that service when they go out into our community. So I think it's easily and well defended here. I do believe that, you know, in addition to parks and the department, the police and fire are out there providing a significant and important benefit to the area.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about that. I certainly think this is a valid, justifiable
Perfect.
allocation.
AJ, I think we talked about this, but I wanted to ask you, in that money that you have set aside there, and we had park in there, would that include, or is that going to be separate, the you know, cleaning machine and things that we talked about, open air, because that still hasn't been purchased, and yet if we want that building to be used more, we're going to have to provide equipment to make sure that that floor is able to be cleaned, because it's kind of a crazy mess to clean.
Yes, I do believe that this is where that would come from, Mayor.
The budget is more of a guidepost, and as we go do projects, if they come in more, we can make adjustments as we go.
Yeah, you know, Commissioner Lack, good question. And let me keep notes as I answer questions. I agree with that, and I would say that that's in both directions. That unlike the general fund in the city where there's an appropriation, you need to live to that appropriation, the Redevelopment Commission isn't held to that. I mean, we could just keep this in one pot of money and get in here and do our thing. But that isn't this commission. Under Mayor Lynch's leadership and all of you, we've talked about knowing what we're gonna do in a year, what we're going to focus on, so that we can find ourselves where we are today. You know, being able to help with police, fire, with equipment, parks, and many of the things that we still do to help the bigger community, right? But I agree, Greg, that the good question. That yeah, no, I believe it's more of a guidepost. If we see things that are going higher, we see those because we're going to open a bid, award a contract. If it's going to go lower, it's the same thing. And then, as you know, there's even some projects that we even identified as recently as last year that we didn't pay for this year because it didn't work out. A project got delayed, this, that, or the other. But yeah, for me, I just look at it as a general guide. And that you know where we're going, where we're headed. But as we make our way through all of it, you ultimately see all of this because you're the one approving the contracts.
And it's good for transparency, frankly. The public sees this budget, they know what you guys are thinking, know the plans.
Just curious. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Greg.
You have to act on it by making a motion to approve it?
I think you should approve it, yes.
And then just in terms of parks, the only park in the allocation area would be Founders Square, right? None of the other parks? And Northside, obviously.
No.
No?
So in the allocation area, park-wise, Founders, a portion of the Prairie Duneland Trail, South Properties, Portage Lakefront, Woodland Park.
Oh, Woodland is in the allocation area. Okay.
Marquette, Greenway.
The Marquette Greenway Trail, Deer Trail Park, Open Air Pavilion. And we might be missing one or two. But yes, those are all in the allocation.
Yeah, my question was about Woodland.
Yes, it is.
Whether Woodland was in the allocation area.
It is, yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions, discussion? Great job on that budget, AJ.
Thank you.
It looked so much better than year one. So, if not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. That can only get better. That's wonderful. So did I skip anything now, AJ?
No, Mary,
'Cause I didn't
we're
have
back to
one.
where we were.
Okay, so we're at the Portage Library Park.
Yes, so before you, for your consideration, is a contract for professional services from Abbenmarsh. Abbenmarsh, prior to this, had been working closely with Mayor Lynch, City Council, staff here in the city, Portage Library, to develop and come up with some conceptual ideas about what this outdoor learning center could be. Their early work, really got folks excited, and I think a commitment by first the City Council and their ARPA plan, and now here at the City Council to move forward with that project. So this is a proposal from Abbenmarsh again, who is the firm who provided the conceptual ideas. So I received this proposal on January 20th. As you go to page 5 of the agreement, you'll see a summary of fees for those professional services for design and documents, $64,000. They do provide some suggestions for construction phase services, and then secondarily, I asked that they include in this proposal a conversation about a trail along Irving Street that would be consistent with the park's trail plan. And our idea, I believe, as a commission, to continue to invest in downtown and to provide a wonderful access to young and old alike along Irving Street to this new investment. And you'll see what that is. The fees here, I believe, you'll find are pretty consistent. I know Commissioner Lack had a question about these, and I found them to be very similar to the professional services that were offered by DLZ in the most recent phase of Founders Square. One thing I would note, if the commission would like to move forward with this, is two things. Of course, Attorney Whitten having a legal review, and secondarily, if I could ask Attorney Whitten that we include in here a provision in this professional services agreement that releases the contractor per task, so that it's clear that, as an example, we would move forward with pre-construction services for Library Park, but not move possibly forward with Irving Street, as an example. I would like to release them per service. If I could ask for that to be added and seek Attorney Whitten's help in doing so. I have reached out to the folks at Abbenmarsh, and they didn't believe that was a problem, but I never really suspected it was going to be anyway. Yeah. So that was that's my presentation of Abbenmarsh's proposal and suggestion to the commission for consideration.
Will the library be contributing any funds to this, or is this all Portage City?
So thank you, I appreciate that.
He's got to get the thoughts out first.
I know. So as it relates to the library has committed, I believe it's just over $100,000 to the project. They have committed the forever cost associated with maintenance. There is a point in time when this project will be handed over to them for their forever maintenance and responsibilities, and they have agreed to that. They have committed to the mayor and to the city council that they will work hand in hand with marketing for sponsorships. There are certain aspects of the project that are elements of the outdoor learning garden that are very specific and very sort of sponsorable, if that's even a word. But they've committed to that, and to help with that, Commissioner Lack, they've offered to put together the marketing package that would kind of be the handout or the piece you walk around to solicit that interest. And I guess I'll turn it over to the mayor, but I know you've had some conversations even initially with that stuff.
I probably have 4 funders now that will fund elements of this park. And working with the director of the Porter County Library, he is willing to go with me, and we'll work to market the components that are going to be pieces of that park. Kind of like the Valparaiso Library Park, where, you know, there's certain things, there's sculptures and things like that that are sponsored by businesses in the community. So we're hoping that that's kind of the concept that we'll use here. And I do want to say to Avonmarsh, because when we first came up with the idea, I believe Superintendent Wilkie and AJ and myself were over there. They had asked our park department if they could put some benches over there during COVID so that they have a strong Wi-Fi signal, and they wanted students to be able to use the library and study outside. And then it just kind of evolved into discussing that piece of property, and we've been in discussions for well over a year, wouldn't you say, AJ,
Yes.
on what could happen there for the city of Portage. And so I think it's really exciting. All of the park board themselves, the county park board, I mean, everyone's very excited about what's going to happen there. So I think that coming together like this in a partnership is going to make that more possible. So I'm really excited about it for the children in our community, and the fact that people can access it by coming up the Prairie Duneland Trail and getting right to that park. And then they would be responsible for the programming, because there's an amphitheater there, so they would have all the programming component of that as well.
Would we deed it over to the park or the libraries after it's done?
So Commissioner Lack, we've been working with the library board to talk about how that would happen. Attorney Witten's been involved in that. The thought is this, right, that the Redevelopment Commission, in concert and partnership with the library, would work to construct, and prior to that, there's an understanding that's reached, a document that's prepared and executed by both parties, and that there's a handoff, correct, that there's a handoff to say, okay, construction's done, it's conveyed to them, and it would be the land and the improvements.
And I want to say that when we first started meeting with someone from Avonmarsh, I said we would kind of like to do this in Portage. We don't have any money right now, but could you give us a concept? So Arvin from Avonmarsh has done a beautiful job of creating what he thought would be ideal for that location. And I thought it was a great concept that he came up with without charging us, and yet getting the things that we suggested to him to come out in these drawings, which are, you know, I don't know if you've seen them, but they're in my office, and they're great.
Yeah,
so
it's a great fit for residential area.
it is. It's a perfect location.
AJ, the property to the south of where this would be, how would this connect into that property? Would there, because I know that it's for sale, and at some point it's going to be developed.
Yeah, so the proposed, the concept shows the park or outdoor learning center being on the 4 parcels that we remember as the old Portage Police Station.
Right.
And then the fifth was the parking lot that was added in later years to serve the police station. The idea here is that the interface with the development south of where the parking lot is now, if recollection, and I believe their site plan's expired, but in their past site plan, the development pattern was very similar to the development on the south side of Lexington, where a row of townhomes, an access point in the middle, and rear-loaded garages on that property. If memory serves, I don't think they had a connection north to the parking lot that's there now. I believe that they were single-loaded off of Irving Street. However, that site plan's expired, so if we were to see that developer come in with a new concept, we would likely revisit that to determine how to interface. I know there's also been a question about the home on Lois Street that has the fence on two sides. The proposal or the concept that Avonmarsh has put together really continues to really create a good buffer between the uses of this outdoor garden and the parking lot, and really continues to increase or expand the buffer and distance between the public using that and that party's backyard. So I think that there's been a lot of deference to that residential party to make sure that they're protected from what's going on in the future. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
And AJ, just to clarify, that property is owned by the city, right?
Correct. Yes. So as we make our way we make our way through this, there will need to be a conversation taken up at the Board of Works to talk about that. There's a disposition process that they need to go through. Again, these are all the things that early on, Mayor and I and everybody and Attorney Whitten have been talking about strategizing that. And I think that prior to really releasing Avonmarsh on this design proposal, there are a couple boxes we need to check off before we start paying for professional services. I believe everybody's on board, Commissioner Zilli, but it's better to not assume that.
Right. Well, I will make a motion to approve the contract subject to legal review with Avonmarsh.
Second.
We have a motion by Colin, seconded by Greg. Is there any further discussion? Any questions? Attorney Whitten, do you have anything?
No, Mayor, I think you've covered it very nicely. I mean, no, I think you've covered it. I'm just speaking to the horse.
Okay. So if not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. I think this is just going to be a wonderful asset for our city, our children, the people that live in the city. So it's a project that I've been very excited about for a long time. So thank you very much. Okay, I'm going on back to my agenda here. And we have the LPA contract with the Chrisman Bypass Construction.
Yes, Sandy, if you could come up and present this, please.
As you've all heard, our Willow Creek Road, Chrisman Road bypass project is actually being bid out. And the project, they will open bids on February 9th with all INDOT partially funded projects. It is required that we hire an engineering consultant to perform construction inspection. So this is a standard INDOT contract with standard INDOT language for construction inspection. It was provided by DLZ, who is also the design engineer on the project, and they are proposing to do the work for $380,300. It's just over 10% of the proposed construction costs.
Yes, and I think, Sandy, the construction of this project is over $3 million.
Yeah.
It's a big project.
And it includes, it's the roadway, is it the sidewalks too?
They're replacing some curbs and sidewalks and guardrails, just cleaning up the whole corridor.
Okay.
So
It
yes.
would be nice to be having that smooth.
Yeah.
Random question. Are the purple streetlights getting replaced at some point in the next few months? I mean, they're all over the country, I know this, but are we expecting those to get replaced? Because they just look weird.
From what I understand, we posed that question to our contractor,
Yeah.
who does the maintenance on our streetlights. They said it had something to do with a switch, an IPSCO switch, and I don't know
Okay.
where that stands. I believe that correspondence took place probably late last year, so we just need to check back with them.
Okay.
I have never noticed that.
Oh,
Maybe you don't see purple.
No, I don't,
If you drive down Willow Creek bypass, they are purple lights.
I think it's kind of cool.
I'm colorblind.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
have
sure.
you seen them,
It's weird.
Greg?
Makes me smile.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing there for
It's
you.
so
drove
weird.
this?
Like it's purple,
The
purple,
specs
like purple. It's weird.
DLZ?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, plans and specs.
Dan, does this
Everything's
need,
done.
oh, sorry.
Are
It's a
the asphalt
contract, I think
specs
we
the
have.
same specs of what
Yes,
material
yes.
is there now or original construction?
Well, we had a special material that had more of a binder in it when we resurfaced the section south of Central Avenue. This mix is going to be the same. It's NDOT approved mix as what was recently constructed just north of Central.
Right.
That portion. So mixes have changed a lot over the years. They tend to keep getting better and lasting longer.
Reason I ask is that the mix that's there now is more abrasive, and the road was slippery in the wintertime and when it was damp. And when it was repaved the first time, they ground out the old surface because it had become slippery and put a slag mix in to keep so that it was not as slippery and accident prone.
Well, there's nothing that prevents a contractor from using slag in their mix.
Right. Well, the slag mix back then was specific for that purpose. It was higher coefficient of friction to keep the accidents from happening.
As far as
Okay.
I understand, it's a standard NDOT mix.
Okay.
Because the projects are they're pretty much back to back, that this surface is going to be very similar to the partially NDOT funded project that is between Central and the Indiana Toll Road Bridge, so.
Right.
And I don't think we've had issues with that. We've had issues with people running over the signs in the medians, but I don't think we've had an issue with the asphalt.
I saw one laying down there.
Okay.
Well, I will make a motion to approve this subject to legal review.
Second.
We have motion and second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So we have the financial advisor contract with Carl Sender.
Yes, next for the commission's consideration is a financial consultant service agreement with Sender Dalton Municipal Advisors. Carl Sender was here. Carl Sender's still here.
He's there.
Carl and his folks have provided, I believe, really good service to the Redevelopment Commission over the years, and I've always found him to be responsive. This continues his work into 2022 for the commission, and it would be my recommendation to enter into this contract with Sender Dalton Municipal Advisors for 2022.
Second. I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Greg, seconded by Colin. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. There you go. Overlapping districts report.
Yeah, yes, Mayor Lynch, and now we get to see his good work in practice. Mr. Sender.
Right. Mayor Lynch, members of the commission and staff, thank you for having me here today. I think you're aware that the General Assembly a number of years ago has required that Redevelopment Commissions put together kind of a report for the overlapping units report. to allow them to make any comments. 3 specific things the report needs to do is discuss the Commission's budget with respect to the allocation area revenues. That's number 1. Number 2, the long-term plans for each of the allocation areas. And number 3, impact on the taxing units. And we've added a few extra things, just I think be helpful information for the Commission. It's a rather lengthy report, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. The budget has already been presented by AJ. He's done a wonderful job, and I want to commend the Commission for establishing reserves, and it looks like you have a very good budget for this coming year. But that's a part of Exhibit A to our report. On page 2, I'll just point out the distributions of tax increment for the last 2 years. For 2020, the Commission collected $7,705,124. And for this most recent year, including the December installment, we received $7,950,241. So a slight increase. So those are all good things for the Commission as you know, we're trying to establish a budget here for this year. The next several pages just shows some of the outstanding bonds that we have that the allocation area uses part of those TIF revenues to make principal and interest payments on. And then I'm just going to skip back to the end of the report, which is the tax impact. It's kind of a funny thing because a lot of times we say that there really is no tax impact to the overlapping units if it weren't for the TIF, the but-for TIF. You know, if we didn't have the TIF to make some of these necessary improvements, would we have the downtown development there at Founders Square? Would we have a Ameriplex? Those kind of things. And so we still show the impact. It's a pretty insignificant amount, but on page 14 we do show for your main on the Southport allocation area, we did have for pay 2021 incremental assessment of $447,638. And we do show that if you didn't have the TIF, it's potentially you could reduce the rate by 33 cents. But again, the but-for test says you wouldn't have all this growth if it weren't for the allocation area. The next page, I think, is what some of the units are, you know, concerned with is what's the impact on the cumulative improvement funds. For Porter County, it'd be about $58,468. For the airport, $9,262. For the city, it's a little bit higher, $89,439. And for Portage Township Schools, there's no impact because a couple years ago, the General Assembly took the capital projects, which is kind of like a cumulative fund, took it off of being a fixed rate fund and moved it into the operations fund, which is a max levy fund. So there really is no impact because, again, it's not a fixed rate. So that's basically the report. If you have questions or would like to go in more detail, I know we'll be updating for the actual TIF report that will be submitted to the DLGF. We'll probably be coming back to you in March or April with that for the whole year as well.
On page 1, it says members must be a resident of the county. Should that be city?
That should probably say the city. Thank you for that correction. We'll make sure we get that changed.
Is there any action needed on this now?
It's up to you if you want to just accept this report, but you know we've presented it. I'll defer to Attorney Whitten.
I might move to accept it.
Move to accept the report.
Second.
We have a motion, well, moved to accept by Colin and seconded by Alan. Are there any further questions for Mr. Sender? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl, for
Thanks,
your
Carl.
hard work and for being so good to our commission here. Okay, we have the RFP for Development of Parcel C.
Yes, several months ago, well, not several months ago, a couple months ago, we moved forward with the issuance of an RFP seeking developer interest on Development Parcel C. Commonly, it's the 47 plus or minus acre parcel at the northwest corner of Indiana 249 and Burns Parkway. We have received a proposal from Holiday Properties and signed by Michael Micka, Holiday Properties Partner Vice President of Development. And the second proposal was received from Flaherty and Collins, Jim Croslin, Vice President, Principal of Development. At this point, because as you can see, they're substantial, my recommendation would be to accept both RFPs, to spend some time reviewing them, and then as a commission contemplating next steps, possibly who we would like to move forward with, or not. But to take them under advisement, to review them, and to spend some time digesting what's offered.
I'll make a motion to take both bids under advisement.
Second?
We have a motion by Greg, seconded by Colin, to take the two bids under advisement. Is there any discussion? I do have a question, AJ. What if we didn't like either one of those proposals?
We the language that was included in the RFP does not, or allows for the commission to make a decision to not move forward with either.
Okay.
This was a way for us to reach out to the development community to garner and see if folks were interested in moving forward with development. But in no way does accepting these proposals obligate the Redevelopment Commission to move forward in any direction. There are a number of things that need to be talked about, thought through, probably some agreements executed along the way, Mayor.
Okay. Are there any other questions? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on. So I think we have the Downtown Portage Community Recreation Center, former Little League Baseball Complex agreement.
Yeah, so there's nothing formal as an agreement, but I think this was the best way to describe it at this point. So in late November of this year, the Redevelopment Commission closed on the approximate 7.7 acre properties that we commonly know as the former Portage Little League Baseball Complex. Since then, we've entered into a contract with HWC to help us work ourselves through a master planning effort. We held our first meetings last Thursday with members of this commission, the Common Council, many on staff, Clerk Treasurer Rivas and others in the community that are aware and part of the youth programming offerings in our community. And I think you will, even in the meetings we had with you, in my conversations with the mayor and what we heard on Thursday, is that there is a strong interest in providing a youth baseball program to the kids in our community this year. The arrangements and how that would be executed are ongoing, and but it sounds like it's on the cusp of happening. And it would be some sort of arrangement or understanding between the Portage Parks Department and some folks that chartered a Cal Ripken Babe Ruth program last year. To make that offering to the kids and to really make a sure success of that program in 2022, there was an expressed interest when we met with that group of folks that if we can move sooner and get registrations underway, that this is a program that would be robust and ready to rock and roll here in Portage in late spring or March or May or whenever baseball starts. As we talked on Thursday, my reporting, having sat in on all the meetings all the day, is that there was seemed to be almost full consensus that offering this opportunity for youth baseball in the community was supported. But to do so, this commission needs to take a first step. You're the owner. And to allow this youth baseball program, this thing to happen, the commission would need to be giving consent to, in this case, it would be the parks as the program operator in concert with this group to use the property. Earlier on in the meeting, we talked about budget. We talked about what some of these initial steps need to be from design and construction. But we would have to get an agreement of would the commission agree to allow this to happen this year, so that registrations could begin, the work could begin by staff to make sure that this property is up and ready for the kids when the season would start. So while there's no formal use agreements, it was more of could the commission agree that this is what we would like to see happen on that property this year, and trust that between the mayor, Attorney Whitten, Park Board, this group of strong supporters of youth baseball could come to an agreement of how to provide this is a wonderful program to the kids for this year. And I'm here to talk more. I know many of you participated in those interviews Thursday. I have Superintendent Wilkie here because some of this responsibility would fall to her department in terms of sorting out the arrangement between this group, creating a set of bylaws, identifying a board of directors, talking about registration. So the Parks Department would be playing a key role in moving this youth program forward. I'll stop at this point. Hopefully I've covered most of it, and would turn it back over to try to answer any questions you might have.
Well, I think in my discussion with you, AJ, I did express concern that the park is short-staffed already, and that's a huge concern that I have of taking yet another project on that there's things we can't get done here. If you just look around in this room, you'll see what I'm talking about.
So
I'm concerned about us taking something on that we don't have the staff to do.
So, and yes, Mayor, you have expressed that, and I would think it would be fair to say that as we spoke during the interviews on Thursday, that came up universally by the members of the Redevelopment Commission for sure, because you all have been part of any number of these conversations over the years. I would go back to the budget that's proposed for the Redevelopment Commission. The monies are in the budget that was approved to handle those sort of concerns that would be raised regarding property maintenance, the condition of the property as it stands today, and even all the way to staff is included in that budget. here's how I responded to the question last Thursday. We were going to have a minimum threshold of maintenance of that facility this year, because I'm pretty sure when the weeds grew and the grass grew, I was going to get the first call. Mayor, is that correct? Maybe the second call.
Or maybe myself.
Or the mayor would be out there mowing or doing it,
Yeah.
you know, or we would, right? But so we always knew there was going to be a minimum standard of care out there this year, regardless of use. That's the first threshold. The second threshold is the investment has been made by the baseball community historically. So between their investment, what we were going to do anyway, and what I think we've come to in the initial phase is it's whatever is going to be there downtown is going to have probably a recreational aspect to it. We're not fully baked. We just started the planning process, but in the short term, I didn't hear anything else. Sat in all the meetings. So specifically to the mayor's question, and it was heard loud and clear. Those concerns, Mayor, that you've mentioned are handled in this budget for this year. I don't see this being a burden to the park and or the general services. If the Redevelopment Commission is going to move forward with this, you're stepping up with the money to do the job. You're not asking somebody else to do it for you. It's in your budget. It's in your corner. We are responsible. No one else gets the blame if it doesn't work out. This is on us. So we have the budget. Obviously, we'd probably be contracting some of this out. And the money's there to make sure that it doesn't look like it's been abandoned.
So in terms of operating the baseball league, we in the park, we won't have any part of that, right?
But the park would. So
How?
we're the owner.
Right.
We're going to handle maintenance, some of the construction that's going on, but the Parks Department would handle registration. This board of directors that needs to be formed is going to operate that league. And again, Superintendent Wilkie's here to dive into that. As you know, she's very familiar with baseball and could talk. She's had some preliminary conversations with folks representing the program. Obviously, she's the superintendent, so she knows the role the parks would play in this. So that's why I asked her to be here today, Commissioner Zilli, to answer that question, because I didn't feel it appropriate to answer some questions that might be park department.
Yeah, and Lori, before we do this, I want to make sure that the parks can be able to do this. I don't want us to commit to something and then we just don't have the staff and we're not able to manage it, and that's my biggest concern. Is who is going to be managing that? Who's going to be running this league? Who's going to be managing all of the moving pieces?
So it is my understanding that it will be a Portage Parks Color Pin League. The current holder of the charter is going to sign it over to the Parks Department. From that point, all the details have not been figured out yet. We definitely want a couple of those people to serve on the board who have served before, along with other people who would have a great interest in the future of the program and the future of the facility, serving on that board. The Parks is totally comfortable running the program, handling registrations, advertising, just like we do all of our other programs. And then the relationship with this baseball community, that will still be ongoing. We haven't had a lot of conversations yet because we weren't sure how this was going to go. So I didn't want to waste a lot of time in the details if this didn't happen.
Okay.
So those will be conversations to be had very soon to figure out this.
So you're not asking for official action today, right? We're looking for some philosophy, because I gotta tell you, I am just, I have so many questions in my mind here. We're not even in the room of figuring this out, much less finalizing it. You're not asking for that tonight, are you?
Well, I guess here's what I am asking. If the action is no, say it.
Say it now.
Yeah, because
but I'm not sure what it is.
it is use fields for baseball.
Yeah, but then we're getting into, well, there might be a board, and we kind of like,
Yeah,
some board members be this, and we're gonna do that.
But
No, I
There's
think
a
what
lot of legality that I'm thinking about here, and I don't know that I can speak to that tonight.
Right. I
So-
think what AJ is asking for is if we don't want to move forward at all, say now, and then we don't move anything forward. But if we are considering moving forward, get all that done, then come back, right? Am I understanding that
From
correctly?
a redevelopment perspective, we're just looking, no matter what, when you purchase this property, we already figured it's gonna be $150,000 to maintain it. But from the redevelopment perspective, if I understand correctly, we're just looking for taking those funds, having the baseball fields in an operational state, and putting the management of it into the Parks Department to formulate a structure to run a league. Is that correct?
Well, really, you're just asking the RDC to approve allowing them to use the fields,
Right.
right? I mean, because if we say no, then you don't need to do anything after that.
Right,
Like,
or
there aren't any
AJ's
fields.
looking
Right.
for us to say we don't even want to entertain that thought.
Yeah, but it may be that, I guess my point is, there's so much detail
Yes.
out there. I'm not poo-pooing the idea, by the way. I haven't formed my legal opinion on it yet, but it seems like the mayor had some concerns about the management of the league. AJ's addressed the financial, at least, which is good. But I don't know, that you're in a position to say yes, and I'm not even entirely sure you're in a position to say no.
I mean, I'm comfortable in saying that if it's all figured out and goes through legal review and we're okay doing it, allowing them to use the fields, I mean, we own them, give the permission to do that, but I guess I don't know that we want to do that tonight.
So I guess that's what I was asking, AJ. What's the timeline here? Do we have time? Because it seems like there's a lot to be worked out, even from Lori's recitation. There's some things yet to be done, and pretty important things.
So yeah, you're exactly right. There's a lot to do, and there's very limited time. That sounds like every day of my life here in the city.
Yeah, you and me both.
So there's a desire to operate youth baseball. Registration needs to happen, and for that registration to be successful, that program needs to know where they're going to play baseball. And to do that, the first step is would the Redevelopment Commission even entertain that idea of using those fields for the purposes of youth baseball? Understanding that there's a lot more to do, but I think the point of my first request is if the Redevelopment Commission is interested, that's the answer, and then the youth baseball program can sort it out and figure it out. But again, if we believe that, if we're comfortable with using the asset that's already there for baseball, making some minor improvements for the youth baseball for our kids in 2022, that we need to hit the ground running. So for me, and at least in this item of the agenda, is the first question is, would the Redevelopment Commission allow the park, the Redevelopment Commission itself, because I'm the one who's going to be doing some of the work to make the improvements, because it's not owned by the park, it's owned by the Redevelopment Commission, to move forward so that this can be delivered as a place that this program could be offered in May. Understanding that there's a lot to it, I think we all collectively have some past experience in terms of how leases work at places, in terms of how we operate programs, but I fully understand that. But to move ahead with any of this without having the blessing of the Redevelopment Commission, it's just a non-starter. Now, with that said, what I can report is everyone on Thursday last week didn't have an issue with this. Now, there were concerns raised, but not issues. Things that everybody agreed, we need to work this out, we need to figure this out, we need to figure that out. But that in no way was anybody of the mind that we're not going to have the baseball fields open. I'd never heard that.
So Lori, could you, because I keep looking at you through this box. I'm sorry to do that too, but I like to talk to somebody. I think, and you know that I love our parks, and you know that I have a concern that your staff is so overburdened now and that you can't keep up with the workload. So would you be taking any of your staff to work over at this complex?
No. That's the discussion that we had. The Redevelopment Commission would be covering all field maintenance, prep, everything. We would run the program, we will program it, but we will not be responsible for the facility.
What about like Are we
was
gonna
my
have,
understanding.
there are gonna be
Correct me if I'm
concession stands? Who's gonna be monitoring everything going on over there? Are those gonna be parents?
So in our short conversation that we had this year, trying to get baseball off the ground, I made the comment that if the concession stand's not open, that's fine, we can figure it out. We can have a tent, we can sell concessions.
Sure.
If there's no bathroom, if the bathroom facilities aren't ready, we can have porta potties. We can do whatever it takes to get it running this year. There's a possibility the building may be good enough to run a concession stand out of. There's a possibility the bathrooms may be ready in time, we just don't know.
Okay.
The most important thing would be, are there a couple of fields there that can be ready to play May 1st? That's what we believe can be ready by May 1st, and that's a great start. So if the Redevelopment Commission is in agreement that those fields can be used for baseball and they're willing to put the money and the effort into them to be ready to use, on the park side, we can get the program going.
I guess my only concern, and I don't have a problem with the fields being used as ball fields at all. My concern is the rest of the park and the maintenance of the rest of the park, because we're already not keeping that up. And so I know it's because you don't have staff, and I would not want to see your staff over there and then things keep falling apart over here because we can't keep up with it.
It's my understanding the park staff will not be expected to upkeep that.
That would have to be in writing for me to accept that, because I feel like sooner or later I wouldn't want somebody say, well,
I
we
totally
need,
agree.
and I mean, your biggest
Absolutely.
complaint to me, Lori, always is you don't have enough staff.
Correct.
And
I'm severely
I would
understaffed,
absolutely
yes.
not want any of your staff being used for the ball fields, because you have to maintain what we've got here.
Would it be just like a typical Little League where the parents would run a concession, you know, working the concessions with volunteer labor?
It would be my intention that the parks would run the concessions, because that income would come back into the parks.
Okay.
So we would just have additional concession employees. It would just be another stand under what we already run at Imagination Glen Softball Complex and Soccer Complex.
Okay.
And correct me if anything I said was wrong, that's just my understanding.
The budget that was approved includes the ability to have the fields mowed, maintained, to pay the utilities, to pay for staff, to pay for the maintenance and repair of what needs to be done. It's all in this redevelopment commission that was approved budget. The only way a park staff is going to roll out there is if they roll out there on their own and they start working. The commission earlier in this meeting made the commitment to pay for this stuff. Again, if the redevelopment commission doesn't want to, so be that, and that's cool. But I'm presenting what I thought I heard.
So what I'm saying is, I just don't want somebody calling me as the mayor or Lori as the park superintendent and say the garbage cans are overloaded, there's garbage everywhere. She doesn't need that extra burden on her, because this is extra work for her. So I need to be assured that that is not going to happen.
Well, I have no idea what this motion would even be at this point. I mean, I'm comfortable saying the redevelopment commission, as the owner of the property, is willing to allow the parks to use it, but all of this needs to be figured out, and we need to know what it all is before we give final approval on it. Dan?
I would think that you guys need some questions.
Like this needs to come back to us in February, so we know exactly what's happening, and we have a commitment that this is not going to overburden the parks, because that's the last thing we need to do.
I'm really confused. Burden on the parks. I don't know how to be clearer. It's in the redevelopment commission budget. We're going to contract out. It's going to be administered that way. I don't know how else to answer that question. The guarantee is this group.
I don't think it's an answer to the question. It's just historically we know what happens.
Yes.
It turns into the parks problem.
Historically, AJ,
Right.
things have fallen apart, and then it ends up being in somebody
Right.
else's lap, like Lori's.
Right.
And we just can't have that because
that's fair.
she's already burdened in this
Right.
park. I'm always fighting for something for this park because she doesn't have enough staff and her budget got cut.
So the historic that we talk about is this commission historically doing that. I believe that this budget recognizes that history that this commission has really been part of and puts money in the budget to do what you just said you historically don't want to do one more time. So it's already in there. So I guess what I'm saying is I believe the budget and what everything that I've said and what Lori just said is recognizing everything you just said and worried about what could repeat itself. And what I'm suggesting this time is, unlike past redevelopment commissions, you've included in your budget the way to answer everything you just raised as a negative. You just did that. So you just sorted that all out.
So we would have the ability to hire maintenance people?
You're going to have a contractor either to do that, and
Right.
you have staff to
Right.
administrate.
The electrical work, the
Yes,
carpentry
sir.
work, the masonry
It's
work.
all in this budget you just approved.
What about the minuscule stuff of emptying the garbage cans and cleaning the restrooms and the kitchen area?
You have staff included in this budget, and to have somebody contractually be your maintenance person, just like City Hall, we don't, as a city, pay for the cleaning of City Hall. We hire a contractor to pick up the garbage. All of that's in this contract. All of that's in this budget.
But I think, AJ, Lori can tell you, because we had this issue with landscaping and weed growth last year of trying to keep up with the weeds. She was putting out applications constantly to try to get help and pay them, and she couldn't get anybody to apply. So what happens when that happens?
So last year with landscaping, we put out contracts.
Right.
It came in at over $250-some thousand, and this commission last year didn't have that much money. This commission in this year's budget, even with a carryover balance of $2.4 million, has included in your allocation area fund, well, no, it would be in your general fund. In your general fund, you've budgeted so far $200,000 for landscape and $350,000 for repair and maintenance. Those are significantly higher than what you budgeted last year. As Greg alluded to earlier, when this commission hired HWC to do the due diligence study, in their analysis, they indicated that it was somewhere north of $100,000 just to maintain this property in the condition it was in from a mowing and basic maintenance and landscape, or the other option was demo.
So I think we've talked about this enough, I think. I will make a motion that we will tentatively approve the
Thank you,
usage of
Lori.
the fields, subject to Dan's approval of this entire process of the parks operating this. Because there are fields, we need to know what that process is before we give final approval on that. I'm not comfortable.
No one's said the park is going to operate this place. I think I've said that the redevelopment.
Well, they're
Commission is
operating a
going to.
baseball league.
They're running a
Right,
baseball
right.
league with a volunteer board, but operations is mowing, weeding, buildings, utilities. That isn't what they're doing. They're going to run a baseball program. I get its nuance, but those words are not the same thing.
Well, I
The
mean,
baseball board will run the program.
They will schedule, they will
Park
line
department
up,
will
they
run
will
the
pick
program,
teams,
the
they will
baseball
sign
board.
coaches. Right.
Correct. And the desk front will be downstairs.
right, I think we
Right.
just, we need to make sure that that's abundantly clear of who's doing what here.
I have a lot of questions, so frankly, yeah, that's fine with me, Colin. I mean, there's just a lot to work out here. I wasn't in those.
I mean, we'll move it forward from here, give approval to use the fields, but there's a lot that has to be worked out, I think, before
But then
this
would there
becomes
be
a thing.
final use agreement next month, or a finalized detailed responsibilities.
There's going to, let me put it this way.
Upon legal review.
There's going to be something in writing
Right.
that dictates everybody's responsibilities and liabilities and authority. There's going to be. And it's going to come back to this board, and this board is either going to approve it or not approve it.
Right.
That's the way it works.
Right, someone
So,
gets hurt on the
let's be
field,
clear about that.
who's liable for that?
So, and I mean, it's a great idea, it's a great philosophy, there's a lot of potential for great use in the community. Whatever that is, it's going to be memorialized in writing, and it's coming back to this board, it's going to have legal review, and you're going to be fully advised as to the consequences and the benefits of that agreement, and you're going to consider it, and you're going to approve it or you're not. That's how it's going to work, because that's the legal way to do it.
And I think if they need to move forward with it, we can have a special meeting,
Yes.
but I think absolutely we can't. And Lori, I hope you understand, I'm trying to protect your assets that you already have, that you're trying to maintain, because I can't see you going backwards and not having enough help to help you do that. So, I mean, it's just my caring for the parks and the upgrade and maintenance of them as well. So we'll need a second to Colin's motion if Dan, you think
I don't
that
even
was-
remember what the motion was at this point.
So why don't you think about a motion that's something like the board approves moving forward with facilitating a finalized use agreement, and then you're open to the.
I will make a motion to that effect.
I'll second it.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. This is gonna be a record meeting.
Agenda here. Okay, AJ, do we have any other?
We have one thing, Madam Mayor. I believe Mr. Rathjen is here. I've asked that he come and bring to you the agreement for purchase and sale of property for the board's consideration.
We thought you were just here because you like to be.
I just like being.
Thank
We
you,
discussed,
Carl.
we had executive session on this, and we've gone back and forth trying to figure out some title work and getting some things settled out, and so Bill has done the
Okay.
hard work and got us to where I think we need to be, so Bill.
Yeah, just a real quick recap. In September, we got an offer from Mike Doing for a piece of property in the north side development. It's just over 1/10 of an acre, really big piece of property.
Wow, huge.
In your November meeting, we had an executive session, and you did authorize a counteroffer to his offer, which he eventually accepted. We formalized the purchase agreement that was signed in December the 15th by the mayor. We received the earnest money. Then we got into the process of ownership and legal descriptions, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I'm not sure I know what the hell to do.
It was fascinating.
Yeah. The bottom line is the answer is we are good to go. The title work is clean. It's been distributed. Dan has a copy of the title work. We are ready to set a closing. What I asked tonight from the board is authorization move to that closing and to designate who is going to sign on behalf of the board. And I know it's traditionally and always been the mayor, but we still need the minutes of that meeting for the title company, which is why I'm asking for that agreement.
I will make a motion to move forward on authorizing the sale and authorizing the mayor to sign the closing documents.
Second.
We have a motion by Colin, seconded by Alan. Is there any further discussion? If
How
not,
much was this sale for? Can't remember.
$5,800.
all in
They
favor
paid-
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Just as a point of order, they paid all expenses
Right.
for everything.
I remember this.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Bill.
Bill.
You waited all that time for.
All that time for 1/10 of an acre.
And 1/10 of a minute.
What commitment?
Okay, AJ, do you have anything else to bring before the commission? I see you have some notes on here, so.
Yeah. Sounds good. The City of Portage Sanitary Board is sponsoring a project that is called the Swanson Road Interceptor Project. Their contractor is soon to start that work. Likely March is what it sounds like.
Yes.
They are wanting to use property that I believe is owned by the Redevelopment Commission on Central Avenue at the curve, the S curve on Swanson, for a laydown area for that construction project. And I don't know if there's any action that needs to be taken, but I wanted to bring it up today because as we get into notices to proceed and that kind of stuff, that some redevelopment commission project would be used for laydown for that construction project. Okay. And wanted to bring to the attention of the commission that you also have another sponsored project, which is the Central Avenue West project that I talked about earlier. So we're going to need to be coordinating possibly 2 laydown yards in the same neck of the woods. This would be the south side of Central, near the intersection of Central and Swanson. So the old J.C.'s building, the old fire station. So I don't know if there's anything formal that needs to be done. I just want to bring it to the attention that the sanitary board and their contractor will be using some property.
I don't think there's any action necessary, but I think it's good information.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Is there any other business to come before this commission?
Praise God, no.
If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And we have a next scheduled meeting on February 24th, but barring this agreement on the softball fields, I just want to alert you there could be a special meeting if they want to be able to move that forward and not wait till February 24th.
We got to vote on that.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye. That's a 2-hour.